Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Lilies and Ravens podcast. I'm so glad you're here today. I want to talk about something that touches all of us, especially in this age of social media, the challenge of knowing what's true. We're constantly surrounded by information, so much of it may be conflicting. What we hear, what we see, and even more importantly, what we choose to believe matters. There's a verse in Second Thessalonians 2:3 that says, "Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the man doomed to destruction." That's a strong warning, and one we need now more than ever. Paul was teaching about the end times. He warned believers not to be misled by false claims or teachings. He spoke of a coming rebellion and the rise of someone often interpreted as the AntiChrist, a figure of deep deception. The words remind us how important spiritual discernment and patience are. Let's pause and reflect on this for a moment. How do we guard our hearts and minds in a world full of many voices? Several years ago, I learned the importance of looking at history to understand the present. John and I even worked on a social historical documentary produced for PBS. That very first media project of ours opened my eyes. One historical figure that you may already know is Joseph Goebbels, who served under Hitler. Goebbels led the Nazi propaganda, using the tactic of repeating lies until they seemed like truth. This quote is often attributed to him. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The Nazi regime didn't just control weapons, they controlled information. They took over radio stations, newspapers, films, and education to spread their message. It makes you think. But here's the takeaway: when people stop seeking the truth, they become vulnerable to lies. Let's bring it closer to home. Many people during World War II lived near concentration camps. They saw the trains, they heard whispers, and still, many didn't speak up. Of course, some were afraid, others didn't think it was their problem. There was not enough resistance to stop it. That silence allowed darkness to grow. How can something so massive happen before the eyes of the world? And that's what I want us to think about today. Not just the past, but our present. What are we choosing not to see? Sometimes evil doesn't look like a monster. Sometimes it looks normal. We live in a time where we can be influenced by social media posts, trending hashtags, or a voice that seems trustworthy but isn't grounded in truth. Influencers who may be so appealing on the surface. Paul wrote in Second Thessalonians 2 9 to 10, they perish because they refused to love the truth. Not because they didn't know the truth, but because they chose not to love the truth. That hits hard, and it reminds us loving truth is a spiritual experience. It's not always easy. It takes humility, faith, and courage. Jesus told us to stay alert. He said in Matthew 24:4, "Watch out that no one deceives you." And in John 16:13, he promised the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, to guide us. So, what do we do with all of this? We stay grounded, we stay prayerful, we open the Word, ask questions, and invite God to help us see clearly. That's why fellowship is super important among believers, to encourage and help each other. If you are being led on this call, or if you are needing prayers, please reach out and I'd love to connect. As we face deception in the world, remember, you'll know them by their fruits. Matthew 7:16. Look at the actions and results to discern truth. And Jesus also said, be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. Matthew 10:16. We need to stay aware of the lies around us, but also respond with kindness and purity, reflecting His truth in all we do. And we don't give in to fear or apathy. We stay lit, like the light of the world He called us to be. Let's keep choosing what is right, true, and just, even when it's inconvenient and uncomfortable. Above all, let's keep loving the truth that sets us free. Thank you so much for joining me today. In the next episode, I'll be continuing to share excerpts from John's posthumous work, Church, We Have a Problem. I hope you'll stay with me. Until then, stay prayerful, stay faithful in Him. God bless.